Well, some things happened today and yesterday, but
Eh,
also something major happened today. We got to see our actual first look at Liam Hemsworth as Geralt.
yep. The
Uh,
world responded in kind.
you know what the crazy thing is? Doesn't even look bad. Doesn't look bad at all. In fact, I
And,
think he looks great.
but it wouldn't matter who it was.
Right, and that's the thing, and there's people they're doing these interviews now with The Witcher where it's, "Hey, you know, don't take it out on Liam," and I don't think they're realizing that people aren't taking it out on Liam.
No,
They just don't like the show. They don't like the fact that The
right.
Witcher, the overall show, is just no one expects it to be anything, and even with Liam, it's like, are we gonna get that much? Who knows? Also I saw Furiosa, and I
Oh,
also saw The Strangers in the same day.
oh. Well, I know one of those was worse than the other. I know for a
Yeah,
fact one of those was worse.
yeah. There's some interesting things. There's some interesting things with both, and I'm also wondering if The Strangers is going to make more money than Furiosa, which is a
Ooh,
crazy
like
thing to
in
say
terms of actual money
in
past
terms of like
production.
actual profit.
Well, the strangers probably cost $4 to make, so
It costs
you put
basically
them
nothing.
in the
Yeah,
profit margin. Your ticket alone got them
it's
there.
it's crazy. There's that. Senua, Senua's Sacrifice Hellblade basically came out
Yep.
to basically no fanfare. That's a problem. I mean, all sorts of things are going on. Who knows? But as always, Wednesday nights, John Automates Bone Bridger. Welcome to Brand versus the Man. Going to be going into a couple of different things tonight. Uh, I gotta say though, I might have been wrong on some things. I
Okay.
might have been wrong on some things, and but before we get into these things, let's get into the chat real quick. Gabo, first one here. Well, this being the first, appreciate you showing up. Adula, Gambler of Fate, appreciate you showing up and thank you. Dan Yeager, how's it going? Ty Mall, how's it going? Mindless Meat, Cryptic Beats, Real Chad. I don't know if you're still here, Real Chad. I am going to send you a email later, but Real Chad with the gifted 20 John Automates memberships, and I will definitely be making all that up this weekend because I'm just dropping stuff. Who cares about the algorithm at this point? We're just dropping whatever.
That's right.
Throw it out there.
The the plan is gone. The plan was to
It's
have a
gone.
plan. Now the plan is to throw the plan away.
It's gone. It's gone. Real chat. You sent us the stuff. I know you can't be here. Hopefully, I don't know if you're still in the chat. I'll find you if you are. But if you are not, I will definitely reach out to you. And for as always, take care of what you got to take care of. And we will be here when you get back.
Mhm.
So for sure. And thank you as always. Um, yeah, this is a crazy thing. Hunter, how's it going? Toy fanboy, how's it going? Allison, Sir Grizzle, Neil, appreciate you all showing up here. Furious is awesome. It's also one of the most disjointed messes I've ever seen in my life. It is. I can't even really explain it. Like, there's no. I don't hate it at all. I
Right.
enjoyed it. It's what I said it would be. It's fun, but it's also like, yikes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Are you gonna go see it in theaters or are you gonna wait
Yep.
it out?
Yeah, I'm gonna go see it in theaters. It's one of those things where like I was always gonna see this movie regardless because it's interesting to me why and what they're doing, and I'll probably end up enjoying it. But you could tell from the trailers, from what they were talking about, that it is a disjointed movie, that it is a little all over the place. And when it came
Yeah,
out that like it's two movies in one, really,
yeah.
that really I think is gonna throw people off a little.
It's crazy. Neil, by the way, no, not getting your nerd card revoked. I know a lot of people who haven't seen the Mad Max films. That's one of those 80s movies where it's like you either seen it or you haven't. And if you did it, you caught it on some random thing. And then it's like by that point, by the time the latest, or not the latest, but the previous one with Tom Hardy came out, you're almost like, I never really knew Mad Max to begin with. So I know plenty of people who are like that. But yes, it does have a lot of influences and people have been influenced by it. So yeah, it's definitely a solid thing. Mr. Know It All, appreciate you showing up. But yeah, I really liked it. I really did. I thought it was actually really good. And I think one of the biggest issues that I think anybody would have with Furiosa is the fact of there's two specific things that stand out. Either you are going to have an issue with the story or you aren't. And either the CGI is going to bother you or it's not. Those seem to be the two biggest things. So if we look at it with Furiosa, 88%, not doggone bad. I mean, that's really good. That's pretty solid overall. I
Yeah.
mean, you have a good amount of people. It's certified fresh, but I'm wondering why in certain cases. And so if we go through the reviews, and we went through this last week a little bit, and there weren't nearly as many reviews, but if we go through the reviews, now I haven't seen any of the new ones. My assumption would be one of three things. People are going to praise the fact that and honestly, this one right here kind of cements that first topic, but people are going to praise the fact that George Miller has a lot of creativity. People are going to praise Anya Taylor-Joy's in terms of how she does kind of silent acting, because she does do a lot of silent acting here. Or people are going to praise how Chris Hemsworth let himself go crazy. Like it has to be one of them, right? So if you go through, you have Miller pretty much king of the cinematic apocalypse, expertly shot, crafted, edited. That's one of those things that you had here. Speaking of which, you meant this a Mad Max story, this review as a Furiosa origin story. I'll come back to that in just a second. But you have after his powerhouse return to Mad Max director, like it's things people are giving him credit. George Miller conducts in symphony. So it's things like that. I think the fact that he's an older dude who just has this wild imagination and it comes out in droves. That's what people are giving the credit for the most part. But I'm not going to lie to you. Furiosa isn't in this as much as you might think. Like she's in it. She's the main character. But there's periods of time it becomes a different kind of movie. And I think that's where people are having the problems. What are you expecting when you see it? What are you looking for?
I think that I'm going to be extremely happy with Chris Hemsworth's part, with Immortan Joe, with that stuff. But I think I am going to be a little disappointed that the movie is not just a movie in the Mad Max world. I honestly am more worried, and you could speak to this. The first 45 minutes of the movie might be my least favorite from what I've read and what I understand. Is I think that's what's going to let me down. Is it's going to be a little non-high octane. It's going to be the opposite of high octane.
So this is the big thing that comes up. It's Furiosa is great, but does it have lasting power? I don't think it will. And this is
not box office wise.
We've been saying this, I've literally been saying this for weeks. I've not backed off the stance that I think the movie is going to, before I saw it, I was like, I think it's going to be fun. I just don't think it's going to make money. I still feel the same way after having seen it. So there's one specific thing that made me go, this is interesting. And it has to do with Chris Hemsworth, who is quite literally having the time of his life in this movie. Like, if you ever want to see Chris Hemsworth go crazy, this is probably the greatest example. There was some other movies he's had where he's kind of done like off the wall things. And then obviously we know him from Extraction. But here he's insane. And then minutes go by and you start to go, is this Thor? Now, allow me to just just a little, because there's a little bit of part of me where I'm just kind of like, something's off here. Like Thor we saw what happened in Love and Thunder, right? Where Thor basically became kind of dumb, like straight up, just became straight up kind of dumb, right? And after that happened, everybody was like, I don't really want to see that kind of dumb Thor. It looks stupid. It doesn't make a lot of sense and everything like that. Well, something happened here where there are certain scenes where if you look hard enough, he's basically dumb Thor here. Like red cape, everything. Have you heard any of this?
No, I haven't, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, well, and George Miller doesn't do characters like this usually anyway. There's not usually charismatic, talkative characters.
Right. It's actually insane. So I love the fact that he does what he needs to do in terms of just kind of being out there and being insane. And they try to dirty him up and everything along those lines. But for the most part, it is a little bit weird that he essentially stays the exact same. as you would in Thor: Love and Thunder, except for like little things here where he's just like more of an apocalyptic Thor. That's how it felt to me. Now, other people
Yeah.
might feel differently and everything, but he does look cool. I will absolutely say that. He absolutely looks cool. So, if you had to guess, and if you really had to like think about it in terms of this weekend, holiday weekend, for at least in America,
Oh,
holiday
yeah, yeah.
weekend, what do you think it does?
Okay, I have not seen projections on this one, actually. I was waiting till Friday to look at projections.
Mhm.
Um, domestically, I'm going under 50 million for sure. Like, I'd be shocked if it goes over 50. Worldwide opening weekend, I don't think it goes over 100 total. Like, total,
So,
counting everything.
like remember, Kingdom made like crazy money worldwide, right? And that opening, right?
125, 130 or
Yeah,
something. It's not
and
touching that.
it's not touching something like that. And so I'm really wondering if its opening will reach the top 20. I kind of
Oh,
wonder, like,
yeah. Like, will it
and
even break in? It'll be tough.
for reference, this is the
Right.
top 20. So
Oh,
the
yeah,
last
no.
film, the first Omen, made 50. Now this is the entire run. I'm not saying
That entire run, yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to make more money over the course of the run, but I'm saying
Sure.
from an opening weekend. Remember, Kingdom pretty much opened in the top 10 because that's how ridiculously low
Yeah,
the
and
movie
it's gonna
theater has
move up
been.
in the 500s, yeah.
But I do wonder if Furiosa could pass the first Omen. I'm curious, and if it does, great. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't.
I wonder if it even passes it won't Garfield has a second weekend coming up. I don't think it passes Garfield. Wherever Garfield is at after week 2, I don't think it'll
Yeah,
be above that.
a toy fanboy. So will this be streaming in 18 days? Like,
Literally, the Fall Guy,
no,
you can just watch it at home already.
no. I think there's a level of. I will say this, and I mean this legitimately. If you go to see this movie, see it in IMAX if you can. Like if you have an IMAX thing, you can see it in IMAX and you just want to have fun. It's worth it. It actually is in terms of the sound design and everything that goes into it. And so at the very least, no, I don't think so. I think there's a little bit of an event aspect to it where I think it would stay in theaters. That being said, this is going to be another situation just like Madam Web right now being number one on Netflix. And when Fall Guy is streaming, that's going to be number one. And when Furiosa gets to streaming, it will also be number one. I think that's just obvious at that point with these things.
Right. No, for sure. And I mean, this one will be an interesting one to see how it does in the long run because it needs to somehow get up in the 400s, and then it's not going to happen. It's really, I'd be
Oh,
shocked if
no.
it did. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't really
There's a
see it
lot of
either.
people that will not see this that are Fury Road and Mad Max fans that are not
You think
seeing it
so?
because of the title. I truly think the title and what it's perceived to be, I think they should market it more honestly because the movie it's Chris Hemsworth's movie, right? And it's two versions of Furiosa.
Yes. It's two versions of Furiosa, and we don't really get the adult Furiosa until like midway through the movie, to be honest.
Right. And I think that would
So,
help them to
yeah.
advertise it more honestly because I think their advertising is backfiring.
Well, another thing is Chris Hemsworth does not make for a good villain here. That's another thing that kind of throws you. He is way more comedic than he is menacing.
Is
Like,
Younger and Morton Joe the best part?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wondered because people said that he actually was the reason why that people wanted a different movie because he was way better than people thought he would be.
Yeah, that's fair. Him, and then there's like some interesting stuff with Warboy, but for the most part, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, so it just is what it is. But it's just one of those where, and this isn't even a spoiler because you can see it. There's plenty of clips out there, and I would play them, but I'm always with them. They can be a little iffy with the copy, but he's not menacing. It's comedic, and that's why I made the dumb Thor comparison because there are points where during Love and Thunder you would expect seriousness, and then Thor comes out and makes a joke, and there are certain scenes here where the exact same thing happens, and so you're kind of like, "Ooh, okay, well, it just it is what it is. It is what it is." So I enjoyed it though. I had fun. I think it's fun, and if you have a chance to go see Furiosa in theaters, I would say have fun, go see it. If you want to see for a matinee, absolutely cheap it up a little bit, just kind of enjoy yourself. It'll be a nice little cool afternoon. That being said, if you have the chance, do not see this movie. Just avoid it
Oh
at all
yes,
costs.
okay. I watched several people talk about this movie, and I have heard a consensus that it is so bad that it ruins the entire franchise all the way back to the beginning.
Oh my gosh. This is awful. So
It's not
The
a prequel.
Strangers, no.
No,
It's a
you would
remake.
think it was based on the title.
Oh no, yeah, you would think it is, but there's certain things where it's almost shot for shot. So like, no, it is. This is not a The Strangers Chapter One,
It's
and
like a
if you haven't
remake.
seen it, yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's a remake of I forgot when the other one came out in like mid 2000s or something
First
like
one
that.
is terrifying. First one was
Yes.
truly terrifying.
So for those of you who don't really watch horror or anything like that, the point of The Strangers is there's a this one, and this isn't spoilers. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, although you might not care. But the fact of the matter is, it's a couple that stops in a town that they really shouldn't have stopped in. They stay at an Airbnb and they begin to get terrorized. Everything I just said is in the trailer. So the problem with this is, I've said this, and I wonder if you agree, and I wonder if people in the chat agree. Humans are much more scary as a horror trope than anything else. Who cares about demons? Don't care about aliens. Like none of that stuff is as scary as humans, in my opinion, simply because of the fact that humans can actually happen. Like this is based off of stuff that has actually happened before. There are cases of certain things like this that have happened before. So you watch something like this, and there's a little bit of an eeriness, a weird feeling, because you're like, yikes, this could actually happen. Stuff like this happens every day. And the movie even says as such in the beginning. They talk about it. But this movie stinks. I would implore. I generally don't tell people to not watch stuff, but if you don't watch this,
Right. Not worth your
it's
money.
not worth it.
Go get you some cheeseburgers instead.
Literally, buy yourself a meal for the same thing it would cost of the ticket. You'll have better conversation with whomever you're with. I can't. I can't. Hunter, you liked it. If you have a chance, say in the chat why you liked it. I liked one part of it, and I liked the acting from the couple, because they actually did act like they acted their asses off. I'm not even gonna sit there and lie. Like there were certain things where there was the aspect of, oh, this is actually legitimate terror. Like, and there's interviews that the main actress did where she's like, no, I was actually scared. That wasn't really me acting, and you can see it because it's like creepy in a weird way. And they still make the same dumb mistakes that these people make in horror movies. You're still yelling at the screen like, why did you not do this or do that? But the rest of it was tough. I mean, it was Allison, protagonist dumb decisions. It happens quite often here.
I can't get over the endless remakes. Like to try to remake something that directly was a huge mistake.
Yes. But also think about it. And Mindless Meat, The Strangers, 2008 is what it's based off of. So we are essentially talking about this movie here is what it's based off of. So The Strangers, as you can see, a little bit better in terms of ratings overall. That's what this is based off of. And to be fair, this wasn't the greatest movie in the world either, but I think it worked a lot better than what we get with this movie. It's just not there. It's not there. But here's the thing. It might actually make a lot of money.
It might make money though. That's the thing. It'll probably make more than The Fall Guy. I mean,
Tish saying, I love cheap, bad horror. The only thing that bums me out is the confusing remake prequel nonsense. And this is the problem we're getting into too. They're making movies that came out like literally 10 to 15 years ago. They're remaking those. It's like, sheesh. How much ideas are we gonna like? How much is the threshold now? It used to be, oh, we'll remake something that's like 30, 40 years old. Right. When we make something, but now it's getting to like 10.
Yeah.
15.
And I don't know what's worse. The remakes are the endless sequels. Like Jurassic Park 7, Jurassic World 7 next year with new characters, like Fast and Furious 11. Like the remakes are bad too, but it's like
But we've talked about this in terms of these studios only want franchises. They only want things that have names. They don't trust creating something new anymore.
They
At
don't
least not
trust
in
it.
the big theater. They might do it on
They
TV,
don't.
but they won't do it in the
And
theater.
look what happens when they do stuff that's even semi-adapted or original, like the Fall Guy. Like that's going to be a shock to the system for them. Like that's going to be well, it was based on this, but it wasn't enough. Like the thing wasn't super popular that it was based on.
Hunter, the Strangers. The Strangers, yes. I like The Strangers as well. The Strangers Chapter 1, no.
Right.
Mr. Know-It-All,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scariest element of The Strangers is the fact that they are terrorizing couples for literally no reason. That is true. Like, and even in this movie, there's a point where it's kind of like, why are you doing this? And it's literally like, just because.
Yeah.
And that's
scary. The concept is
legitimately.
scary.
That's horrifying. Yeah. But this movie cost nothing. Dan has it here. 8.5 million. Breaks even at 21.
Good. It's good.
And it's not even the weekend yet.
Oh, it's easily going to make it. Easily. I mean, they're going to make it guaranteed.
So if this movie makes $50 million, which is possible because a lot of these movies tend to make around that range. That's not too out of the ordinary. How much did I think Talk to Me made something like, Talk to Me actually made a little bit more. I think Talk to Me almost made 100. But it's like if you can make $50 to $100 million in that range off of 8 plus your marketing costs, maybe. So like, that's crazy. That's a crazy profit, which is why you have this thing of like, is this where we're going in terms of having a moneymaker? Cheap horror. That's it.
Honestly, I mean, we saw that with Five Nights at Freddy's. We saw that, and I wouldn't say Megan is cheap. Megan was a high quality movie. We're getting a second one, of course, but like Barbarian was another cheap movie that did really well. I think the trend though could go bad, like you're saying, and could be really bad remade cheap. I mean, they're going to do Halloween again. They're redoing Halloween again. So now Blumhouse has it, and
they're redoing they're basically doing another Final Destination.
Yep, I'm sure Friday the 13th is coming back around.
All right, so allow me to, and I don't even care about this, but allow me to. I have a full one, but I'm not going to play the full clip. There's one big problem with this. It does explain why it's so cheap, but it's also part of the problem. If I could just show you real quick here. So we all know that kind of trope, right? They're trying to do something in the quiet and then somebody steps or places something on it. We've seen it in sometimes that is the later half of the movie trying to like stay quiet in that. The problem with this movie is that besides that scene, everything else is slow, just like that. They try to do these things where they're going to pretend to do a jump scare, and then the jump scare never comes as a way to kind of throw you off. But when the jump scare does come, it's all it's like really bad. It's really
I mean, low quality filmmaking, which is, what's funny is it's not like this had no budget. 8 million is not nothing. Like it's not like you had the worst, most amateur person at the camera, the worst production. Like that should be enough to make something at least just decent. Not great, just decent though.
It's
even the cinematography is bad.
But I think another thing that sucks about it is the fact that like they do the kind of similar tropes. Oh, we're gonna the girl's gonna walk around the house and they're gonna kind of stalk you for a little bit, but not do anything, not say anything. And it's like, I don't know if that really works as well. It worked for things like Saw because that was the point that he was trying to make. But when every single movie does tropes like that, when that's not really a realistic thing that happens but they want to act like that's the thing that happens with these cases, it gets kind of I don't know. It gets kind of iffy and tired because then the whole movie becomes quiet, quiet, quiet. Something happens. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Something happens, and then that's the end.
Right.
And that's what this movie ends up being. But Dan Yeager, I mean, this is what it is. You can make so many horror movies or thriller movies for extremely cheap. Post-apocalyptic, zombie action, horror. You can do a lot of stuff. Sci-fi can be done on a budget too. You're right. So if you can stay away from the big budget epics,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. I'm hoping that some filmmakers out there get a chance to do something more original. I hope this is also like not a trend where they just embrace it and they're like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's good. Like we can really, throw junk out there.
That's crazy. I wanted to, real quick, as we have a nice little interlude here, I wanted to go into this.
Oh yeah.
So Neil, the Samba study, because I saw that as well. That came out that, and mind you, any of us who know anybody who's Gen Z or Alpha, they'll tell you just as much as like any study will. Where Gen Z doesn't really care about Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, etc. If these franchises are done for Gen Z, what about these older? What about these other older franchises garnering them? So this was the big thing that I think a lot of people were saying about Doctor Who, where the Doctor Who, I forgot who said it, and I don't really follow Doctor Who. I tried the one episode, I had to let it go. In terms of the new one, I had to let it go. I was like, ugh. But there was somebody on there who basically had a tweet that basically said, "Oh, well, for all the people who don't like it, we're gonna basically replace you with like other younger, more." And it's like, are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? They don't watch Disney. They definitely don't watch Disney.
And they definitely don't watch Doctor Who like that. Doctor Who placates older fans. I'm almost certain, and I'm sure if we pulled up like British statistics, I'm sure we would get like
100%. Well, it did at one point.
It did. But that's a weird thing to say. So now you go, huh? Like, what are we doing here?
Right. And the same day, the Acolyte released a thing, and they were talking. The producer for the Acolyte was talking about how it's a show. You don't have to be a Star Wars fan to like this show. And I'm like, well, you don't have anyone but Star Wars fans. Like, you have no one left. No new people are coming to Star Wars at all. If you don't win back who left, you're just done.
I have always hated the "you don't need to be a fan to watch the show." I think when somebody says that, you are dooming your brand. Because that's not something you want to say. No, you do want people who are fans to watch your stuff so that they bring the people who aren't the fans over. Like that's
why Disney bought Star Wars, to get the fan base, not to just.
Imagine if all of the people who were fans of Marvel didn't bring the people over with them.
Oh,
like, I don't think they get this. It wasn't just people filing in to the theater just out of nowhere. No, it was the fact that Marvel fans were going to see Iron Man, we're going to see Captain America, the first Avenger or what. Like, everybody was going to see these early movies and they liked them. And then they talked about them and critics were like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. And that word of mouth started to get out. So by the time the second versions came out and the Avengers came out, it was like, well, shoot, I want to see this. I'm hearing everybody likes this. And then suddenly everybody's pretending that they always like Marvel. But nevertheless, imagine if those fans are like, nah, this stinks.
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. stinks as Iron Man. And then
that's where we're headed. That's the future. Like, that's what's going to happen coming up. Like, that's where things are about to head.
That's going to be weird. And Star Wars is even worse because Star Wars doesn't even do anything new. No. Because they keep focusing on old stuff. And then when they do decide to try something new, which would be the Acolyte, they don't even focus on the story of what it is. They just focus on things that are happening today. And you're like, well, that's an awful way to go about it. So I don't know what's going to happen with these.
Self-sabotage show I've ever seen. It's not even aired. And all we've gotten for 2 years is we got a concept, which on concept alone sounded good. And then everything from every actor, producer, and Leslie Headland has been just so awful. Like, they doomed the show. Regardless, it's doomed. I would be shocked if viewership's not the worst of any Star Wars show.
I think viewership starts off great the first episode. I do. Because I think everybody's going to want to see. I think it falls off a cliff going into the second. So now
that's why they're doing both same night.
Right. You know, and But that's all it takes. Even when you do release both on the same night, if someone's like, I'm not
Oh,
with it
people
on
will
the
stop.
first,
Yeah.
they'll stop.
Well,
And
we've already predicted they're going to get rid of their main character in the first episode.
I don't. I hope not. I hope not. And there's certain
I don't
things
even think
that
she
point to
makes it through the
maybe.
first half of the episode.
Well, there's certain things that point to her being in more because there's like another scene that came out which looks different. But then again, that could always just be a flashback to something, so you never truly know.
Now I could see her not being in the show, but there'd be flashbacks throughout the show.
But yeah, that's you're talking. This is dangerous thinking, and I think there's this weird hubris when it comes to streaming because you see stuff on Netflix and things on Amazon that go to #1, and all of a sudden everybody's watched it. Except they also are forgetting that as much as people might put something on just because they've heard about it, people will turn stuff off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The amount of people who will put something on
Yeah.
for 15 minutes and then be like, "Nah, I'm good," and then turn it off, and it's that easy, and there's no extra investment.
Well, that's what Disney claims with all their Star Wars shows. And then after a few episodes, you see the truth where it's like, oh, it's like 1 million people watching. It's not 10 million. It's 1 million, which is low for a brand like Star Wars. That's crazy.
Mindless Me, Doctor Who lost 400,000 people between episodes. Jeez. Oh my God. That's not
I can't believe anyone's
That's not good at all. Yikes. Hey, Aaronite, glad you're here. Doctor Who was preaching to the converted, putting off the openly accepting fans with lessons and crap. Oh yeah, that's the stuff I've heard. I've heard things like that. And then Dan Yeager, Russell T Davies is the one who's been like, I guess he was a certain way during like the Matt Smith, like those eras, and then all of a sudden he's like completely switched up into something else. And you're like, well, why? Like what are you
why
getting
is the big question?
This?
Like, and I'm doing, this is my video coming out in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, my video is, are they doing this on purpose, or do they just really not understand how to bring fans back to these brands? And I hope it's the second one, but you gotta wonder.
I've said it before. I think the worst thing they did, because I know that now Cutie Got was coming out and saying like, oh, well, maybe it's racist. It's like,
right.
I think the worst thing you could have done is to try and check 2 boxes with 2 things that you haven't done yet. And by that, I mean, by Doctor Who, you had not had a Black person at all yet as your doctor. You had not had a queer person at all yet as your doctor. But instead of like, all right, let's get this and let's try that, you decided we're going to add it all in at once.
Check all
the boxes. And then be like, no, put the cool, suave Black dude in there first before then going into Cutie Got. Put the queer person who people understand first before then trying to combine it all together. You're trying to do too much.
No, they have to do all the things. So that's like a 0.01% represented. They got to do it all at the same time. If you combine all the things, it's like the Acolyte. The Acolyte is going to show us something that is so like focused on this is why you should watch it, that when you're actually watching the episodes, you'll forget why, because you were supposed to watch it because of all these checked boxes. And when story starts happening, you'll be like, wait a minute, what is this? Why is there a story?
That's so weird though. That is so weird because and my I took his advice. I did see the article. I took his advice and went to touch.
It's a great advice. I needed to cut my grass. So I was like, all right.
That was also, again, why do we say these things? But then it gets weird because if you see some of the stuff and you're like, well, how come it's rated so highly? You know, things like that. How come people are, and obviously there's a reason for that, right? Like it's rated highly because people are going on and like they have the bots and stuff like that. They've already caught them. Right. I just, that's a weird
and a lot of critics
really
are afraid to go in and give it a bad review.
Which stinks because now it undermines what we're actually trying to do. That is crazy. But speaking of not being afraid, or maybe being afraid, it kind of depends because I am getting a bunch of different things when it comes to this. And that is Senua Saga, Hellblade. I don't know what is happening here. There are some people who say this game is incredible. There are some people who say this game stinks. and I'm talking like critics, like legitimate critics on both sides. IGN gave it like a great score. GameSpot gave it like a pretty bad score. It's like things like that.
I didn't even know it was coming out.
Exactly.
Like the marketing.
They did no marketing.
Did not reach me in any form or fashion.
I remember the trailer that they did at the Game Awards, which was like 3 or 4 years ago. And then I was like, oh, cool, because I loved the first one. And so I was like, I'm really, and the sound design on Senua is insane. It's really, really good. But now you have a situation where it's like, well, they focused on the look of the game and they focused on the sound of the game. But the game itself, apparently, based off of what you're hearing, people are saying, yeah, it's not good. And so then you wonder, did Xbox know this and just choose not to market it ahead of time? Because no one apparently is really playing it. People tried it and were like, I'm good, and then left it. And that's it. You've heard really nothing from it, which means this game is going to come, have its moment for maybe the next 2 weeks, and then bounce.
Right. I think it's already bounced. I think that they've undermarketed it. And like I checked. So when I saw what we were doing tonight, I was like, I didn't even know this was out. So I went and checked like Asmongold and Penguin Moist Critical and all these people. And there's so little coverage other than just right now. And it's just like gone. It's not like a hype beforehand. It's just over. It's just the game came.
No hype beforehand.
Right.
And so it kind of makes me wonder, are video games going to go the same route where, like, if you don't have the major name, the major brand, or the director or game producer that people know, like a Santa Monica for God of War, for example, is that going to happen for this too, where games are like, I'm not going to market it?
Maybe, but that's a mistake. I think that's a huge mistake because with games, the competition is fierce. Like, I mean, granted, it's all being dominated by the Assassin's Creed drama in the gaming world right now, but still, like, a lot of people pick and choose games, and they may pick games up later. Like, some people will say, like, like I waited the longest time ever to play. Oh, what was it? Everybody played. I can't even think of it. The Dungeons and Dragons.
Not Doom.
No, I'm having to get on my. No, I was on Diablo day one because I was such a big fan of the other
Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then now I play it like I'm moving snail paced, but it's because of like But yeah, I don't know. Like Helldivers was one I got into, but if you don't have anything extra to advertise, I'm a little. I don't know. I didn't even think this was coming. I didn't know this was coming out.
Yeah, and honestly,
but I wouldn't get it unless someone told me it was good. Unless someone I know reviews it that I like, that I trust their opinion.
Well, hence the Game Pass, right? Like, so for people who have Game Pass, you can get it, and that's probably the smartest thing they would have done, because had this not been on Game Pass, no one's playing this. Like, I know it's at a reduced price. I hear no one's playing it if it's not on Game Pass at all. I just don't see it.
You know what's funny is I wonder how many games like people just don't even try, even if they have Game Pass. Like stuff like this.
Oh, probably tons. Probably
a lot,
tons.
I bet.
Yeah. But you're more likely to get at least a nice entry level before like people drop off at the very least. And there are times where Game Pass can act the way Netflix acts for certain shows, where certain games will just kind of appear on there and all of a sudden, boom, it's like big. Yakuza Infinite, or Like a Dragon, that was like one big game that appeared on there. And now the other game that came out, they did crazy marketing because it just raised the stock of the game. Like things like that happen, and you're like, okay, cool. But this, which is actually a big thing, and I wonder why they didn't do it. But it leads me to this question: how long until we get a movie?
Oh, well, I assume there already is one, right? Every game is being adapted. Every single game.
Well, like think of it this way: this game is known but not popular, and it has themes that are great but not talked about that much. And then you have the incredible sound design, and you have a female protagonist. Surely they're going to turn this into something. Someone's going to pick this up.
Surely. Yeah. Oh, I'm shocked they haven't.
And then the biggest thing is like, all right, well, the story is good, but it's also kind of like nothing crazy. It's not going to like set the world on fire or anything like that, which means somebody can go in and maybe add a little extra to it and do what they want with it. Sounds like somebody taking it to make a movie or a show to me.
I mean, we're getting a Sims movie. So if we're getting a movie on the Sims,
no sense. Which makes
it's nonsense
at all.
That is chaos. Like
Lloyd, how's it going? Good to see you here. Yeah, that's Speaking of which,
now, well, Minecraft's going to make it worse too when they make a 2 billion profit or whatever next year. It's going to really amplify the games becoming movies.
But Minecraft has put work
Right.
in. Like they've been around.
They're going to look at that in a different way and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
games just are, like Hollywood's going to look at that like, oh, it's, anything. Look at Fallout. Oh, yeah."
Yeah. We'll see. I don't like the Fallout / Last of Us thing because now everybody's going to be like, well, if we just do certain things, we can get the games and we can get games that are made to be into TV shows pretty easily. And I just don't want that to be the fact because that's not true.
Right.
Because at the very least, call it what it is. Last of Us had the people who worked on the actual game working on the show, and Fallout had fans of the actual game working on the show. That matters. It does.
Lloyd, NCAA football is back. Then comes the movie. I hope so.
No, because they don't want to pay any more from the NIL deals. They don't want that. And yes, Hunter, there is a Sims movie happening for sure. And Mr. Know-It-All, there is a BioShock movie that has been in development. It's been in development hell for a while. So, but yeah.
Duke Nukem. There's a Duke Nukem movie in development.
Duke Nukem in general is always in development. It doesn't matter what it is. The name is always in development. But speaking of a slight weird thing that's happening here, this game.
Oh my gosh.
This is a weird one. Now I wanted to focus on this specific one because the Assassin's Creed Shadows game or reveal is saying all the right things to excite classic Assassin's Creed fans. So Ubisoft is running this campaign. This is a really good example of retargeted marketing where it's like, your stuff isn't being looked at well, so you need to target to other things. And here's the thing that I think doesn't really work for them. This is the big thing here that they're talking about in terms of like what it needs to be, right? Sticking to shadows matter, and now I can snuff out light sources to create dark areas. So to keep that stealth aspect, right? Splinter Cell like meter or light meter, right? Which, if you haven't played Splinter Cell, great game in the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, Naoe, I think is correct pronunciation. I might be getting that wrong. Isn't strong in an open fight, similar to Basm and Mirage, which, okay, that makes sense. You're not going to just be able to take down an army like it's Dynasty Warriors. Grapple hook that expands to parkour. Guard patterns are influenced by weather and seasons. They've said these exact same things for the past, I want to say 4, if not 5, Assassin's Creed. They've always promised a return to the shadows. They've always promised like having to be smart with how you actually plan and execute your attacks. They've had game demos at like different things to showcase what you can do, when in reality all it was a person playing a specific kind of way, but not really doing those kinds of features. I don't think having this, I don't think is going to influence anybody.
Yeah, no. Okay. I think that the veil has been lifted over a lot of these horrible triple quad A games that cost so much.
Ubisoft.
Yeah, especially Ubisoft. You could look at Skull and Bones as an example of it didn't work. It didn't trick people. People did not buy it. It was not able to overcome the known fact that it was not worth it. I think that a lot of people are hitting the nail on the head when they talk about the biggest problem in this game is the price. Biggest problem, price right off the bat. It's another Assassin's Creed game. It's really not that much different. You can change the world, but it's the same game concept. If you really like the old ones, you could just go play those and save the $140 or whatever. But also, I think Ubisoft, I don't know anyone that likes it. I don't know. Nobody. I have never met a soul that is going to give them a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
That being said, I'd just be shocked if they.
Yeah, agreed. Dan, you know what it is. Tenchu Stealth Assassin. My goodness. Incredible game. So now that's what they did. But I pointed this out for a reason. I want you to notice something here. In no part of this do they talk about Yasuke.
Right. The character. No.
Or Yusuke. No point do they talk about it, right? Because based off of how he was in history, he was like a 6'1", 6'2" black guy in Japan. So you can't stealth doesn't probably work in his favor. And when they originally started talking about this, they talked about sticking to the shadows mattered, but they didn't have her. They just said shadows. And now they're trying to like clear it up little by little by little. But it gets even weirder because now they're doing all these extra things and you have to go, why? Now, I don't know if making a samurai game, which everybody asked for years from Assassin's Creed, like people have been asking for a Japan version since like I want to say Assassin's Creed 2, if not 3. I don't know why you would choose to go with a black samurai and a ninja.
I do.
I don't know why you would
It's
choose to do it.
it's like you said about Doctor Who. You can't just do one thing. You have to check more boxes. It's not enough. You have to add more to the equation.
But I okay. I love the fact that Yasuke was. I love the fact that he was a real person. Like that's cool to me. That makes sense. I'm not sure why you would make an assassin. Okay, this is where it gets kind of weird. I think an Assassin's Creed in Africa would be the greatest actual, and I'm not talking Egypt because they already had that one, but I'm talking like legit Africa, like Zulu-ish type Africa. I think if you had something like that, not only would it make sense story-wise, considering how long Assassin's Creed is supposed to go back, but it could be cool as hell because you can introduce elements that you wouldn't normally have, like you've had in some of these other ones. That makes sense. They had one for Egypt. They had one for Greece. They had one for London. They had one for America. I'm not sure why you would choose not to go with a Japanese man at all for your Japanese game when concerning samurai. I just don't know. I don't think black guys were going to be running around here like, oh my goodness, how dare
they would probably be down to play as a samurai. Like I would. I mean, I would.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's something that you and me need to do one day. We need to cover this more because it's the most widely known thing. Is every game company and movie company is trying to appeal to the smallest demographic possible in a way where they almost feel like that demographic won't watch if you don't appeal to them. And that is bizarre to me.
It is. It is a weird business tactic.
Like
it is.
I can't even think about that. Like it's like the idea of like, oh, if we make it a Japanese samurai in Japan, no one from outside of Japan will want to play a game about samurai. I'm like, I'm pretty sure everyone that's into samurai will play it. It's just weird. It's and also there's no one. My biggest problem with Assassin's Creed and stuff is the lack of like they're not evolving into a game with multiple characters you can play as. Like they're not getting better. They're recycling, but not improving in the way where like, oh, you could be all kinds of different characters. Like you could go in and you get to pick which way you're going to go, and you could be this character, you could be this character. You know, none of that.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that. Dan Yeager, in Africa, Great Zimbabwe. That is the example I was looking for. Yeah, Mandika was like one of the groups of like kinds of arm. Like, imagine if you, imagine if you took something to really, because Assassin's Creed loves creating history and kind of like telling us about history, and sometimes they go off the deep end and recreate all sorts of things.
And that's the fun part is you can do all kinds of
So why not showcase the cool history of Africa by having and focusing on those warriors rather than going to a history of Japan that is vast, that has a lot of samurai that we actually know. Like it's like
built-in fans. I think Shogun was just done. You've had years of stuff where people like they are already fans, like they want this culture.
And then you had Neo 2 had just we had that we had Ghost of Tsushima, like the last Ronin has this kind of I don't know. I just don't think it's a good thing. And then the fact that potentially both of them are LGBTQIA is an iffy thing to put out there. Not saying like, do whatever you want with your game in theory, but the problem with that then becomes you can't say we're going off of history
Right.
and then also say, but we're also going to be able to change it. It's a weird thing. You got to stick to one of the.
Yeah, you're checking so many boxes that you're creating something that is truly alien and like it's truly like in a
Yes,
different
it's
realm
it's it's a
of
weird thing.
existing.
It's a weird thing. I don't know why they would do that. So now you're running a risk. Here's the question: does the game still sell anyway? Because I think it does.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of game streamers say the problem with this is a lot of games, Call of Duty is the best example. It's absolute garbage, but people are going to still buy it. People are still going to play it. Like it's just you get what you want, and then if you want it, you're going to get more of it. Like I am guilty of this too in that
Yeah,
aspect. I hate it because I think about like why do I do this? But like yeah, I think it still makes money. Or if it
yeah,
doesn't make money, it's because of the factors to do with their production and how they run that company.
that's true. Neil, it would take folks understanding history. Fair. Ubisoft wanted to
Do they
use
even teach that anymore?
probably not. Culture war
Yeah.
points. It's stupid and insult. It is. It would be like having an AC in India game as a British guy. Yeah, that's it's I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Hunter have the dislikes as well. Yeah, they've I haven't seen them, but I'm sure they're awful. I mean, we see them in other things.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you're going to be able to sell this mainstream appeal. Now, we might still buy it, but it's going to be lower sales. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't be
it'll be lower.
surprised.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be lower. It's like Mindless Meat just said that it'll be lower. Regardless, it won't be what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. And pre-order sales are high, but it doesn't mean it will be consistent or make profits.
True.
Because
Because what if all you have is your pre-order?
right, and fans of games are fans of games, fans of movies, fans of
Yeah.
shows. You're fans regardless, right?
There's
There's
some
that.
people
So
that are going
that's
to absolutely consume product
yeah.
because it's in the thing they like no matter what. And I get it. Like some people like something no matter what. There's some people that still watch Star Wars and they love it no matter what.
Yeah.
If the, I get it.
My,
But
my only thing is just alienation is a real thing.
right, it is. You push people away, they don't usually come back. Like
Right.
yeah.
And it's like a weird thing, I think, only for Japan because everybody's been asking for a Japanese one. Like that's just
Right.
been the narrative for so many years.
Yeah.
So they finally have it, and then it's just kind of like, oh, but we're gonna do all these other things. And I think they decided they wanted to do that because everybody had been asking for it there. So they were like, oh, well, you're just gonna accept it anyway.
And another thing that I'm just brainstorming here that I wonder how much it plays a role is the people that play games on consoles are not exactly the same customer as the PC YouTube
No, not even
person.
close.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of people on consoles that don't have time. Like they go work their 40, 50 hours a week. They come home and they just want mindless entertainment. They see it on the store pre-order available. They love Assassin's Creed. They buy. They don't think like they just, and that probably plays a role in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Plus, also, sometimes it's not just buying the game that you need. Sometimes it's also they want the concurrent players and they want you to buy some
Yeah.
specific things with like
Sure.
DLC, microtransactions, stuff like that. And I think that's where things are going to fall off a cliff. I don't think people are going to play it
Right.
long term, especially if the game's not
point.
good.
It's why Fortnite and things dominate is the
Yeah.
thing you pay for is something that adds to your experience in terms of visual look, but the barrier to the entry of the game is nothing. And the gameplay is something that like every game's a new one. Assassin's Creed is old very fast. So some people
Yeah.
will think that's not worth it to play a game that won't last. Like, if you buy a game that's going to last you years, okay,
Yeah.
I'll spend some money on that.
Well,
But
that's
not a
why
short.
this news. That's why if you are actually like this, then good.
Right.
Because the biggest thing I would do, again, this is just looking at it from a marketing perspective. I don't really have a idea of like if this should have been done or not done. But since it is here, if I'm anybody in Ubisoft, I am putting out as much gameplay, as much you can do this, as much we are different from this. Like I'm putting all of those out as much as possible. You have to. You have to, because what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You already are facing a horde of people who are like, I'm not with it. And you're going to get review bombed from the jump.
You know it. Yeah,
So,
it's coming. and you've earned it. Like you've
did earn it,
earned
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the coping articles, the whole I saw the one where it was kind of like, oh, Asian men are like listen, let's not do this.
Let's not go down that road.
Let's not go down that road. And the last person who's going to have to face this is him. Now, again, top of the show, talked about it. Liam Hemsworth is here. The Witcher looks good, looks fine. You know, I'd play it, but The Witcher looks like they're getting at everybody. But the picture's enough. It looks correct. Doesn't necessarily look as rugged. It looks a little bit more like a pretty boy Geralt, but fine. But you have to make the case. Nobody is hating Liam Hemsworth. People hate the show.
Listen, the man suffered through. He is Miley Cyrus's ex. He's gone through enough. He's gone through enough. Poor guy. Gotta give it.
Yeah. You're with Miley. Yeah.
But it does not matter. It doesn't even matter if the show's good at this point. It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I got a scenario for you, and we'll really talk about this Friday too. If the show is good because it's about him, that will make people more angry, because then it'll be, well, why was The Witcher not about The Witcher when you had Henry Cavill?
Exactly. Except everybody knows it's going to be the opposite, because they've come out and said it's going to be the opposite.
They don't need his character. The show never needed his character.
Hey, listen, like Hunter, it's over. All right. Aaron, he looks good. Maybe they'll give him a few lines. I'm sure he'll have a little bit of lines.
Hey, I know you said he's in season 4 and 5, but what if they kill him off in the first episode of season 4?
Look, Colin's got it correct. Witcher going to be a side character in his own thing.
Yeah,
the series is about Ciri. It's not about Geralt.
And Lauren Hissrich, her career this is it. So I bet she leans in hard on these 2 seasons. I can't believe these 2 seasons are being made, to be honest. There had to be some contract thing there.
No, this is what's going to happen with Rings of Power. You do realize this.
Oh, Rings of
Power.
It's going to keep going.
They're going to have no choice. Amazon gave the money. It's like, we have to do it. So they might cancel some of the later seasons of Rings of Power, but I think Rings of Power at the very least goes 4.
Yeah, for sure. I would bet anything it goes 4. I mean, I would bet it doesn't matter how bad it gets. It doesn't matter how much it costs, the viewership. They'll do 4.
They have to, even if it gets canceled later on, they have to get their money's worth, and this is what it is. But I think everybody knows that Liam is not going to be the main focus. He'll be in it and he'll do certain things and everything along those lines. But one, the chemistry is going to be off, because we already know that Freya Allen has already come out and admitted it. The girl who plays Ciri has already come out and said, yeah, my chemistry with Henry Cavill was like top tier. So that's going to be initially weird just to begin with. And there's a father-daughter relationship there that I don't know if Liam can match. Have faith in the guy, but like, there's something there, right? But even still, the moment he's off screen for 40-something minutes, because we're talking about one of the witches, or we're talking about Yennefer, or we're talking about Ciri, or that's it.
Yeah. No, this is going to be a hysterical few years we're going into. Like things are about to get silly.
I don't know. I hope it's good. I know it probably won't be, but I'm going to tune in. I think a lot of people are going to tune into that first episode just out of curiosity, because curiosity has the ability to do that. I wish Liam the best. This is a situation that stinks. This is like getting drafted to the worst team in the league, and you just have to deal with all the garbage and the hate.
Yeah,
it's like
you just gotta. Yep, there's nowhere to go.
That sucks. But hey, you got to work.
You got to work.
Not taking that away from you. Got to work.
I get paid.
Liam. Bonebridger, what do you got coming up on Friday?
Friday, IsoCubes, we're going to go into some of the things like The Witcher a little bit further. We'll definitely talk about the Star Wars thing and how people don't watch Disney Plus. They're young, and then they insult the customers that are old, and why I think Marvel has not learned anything. Because if you look at post Dead Game and Deadpool Wolverine is all but confirmed what we've been talking about for a year. There's no post-credit scene. This is not a Marvel movie going forward. This is not the future of Marvel. This is a Deadpool Wolverine movie. It's the end of the Fox era. It's going to be silly. It's going to be serious in one way, and that's it. I don't know. We'll talk about that for sure Friday on ISO Cubes at 12.
All right. And here this weekend, we're just dropping shorts, videos, members only videos are character studies. So obviously I have my one on Finn. The ones I have coming out, Neo, John Wick, and Reacher. And probably going to try to do one for Tyler Rake as well from Extraction, because that's just always a fun dude to talk about. But otherwise, for everybody, thank you for joining. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you liking the stream as always. And if we don't see you on Friday, we hope you have a good rest of the night. And for those of you in America, hope you have a good holiday weekend. See you all next time.